Turn off the lights, put on headphones, and brace yourself. These stories will sliver into your mind and haunt you for nights to come. Subscribe and hit the bell right now if you dare to never miss a nightmare. Watch alone in the dark at your own risk. Let's begin. In the desolate expanse of a forgotten highway, where the asphalt crumbled beneath the weight of solitude, Clara found herself stranded on a moonless night. Her car, a relic of bygone years, sputtered its last breath, leaving her enveloped in an eerie silence. The engine's death rattle echoed through the empty space, and she, an unwitting captive in the realm of shadows. The dim glow of her phone revealed a barren landscape swallowed by darkness. No signs of life, no distant glimmers of civilization, just an abyss that seemed to stretch infinitely in all directions. The fuel gauge, an accusatory finger pointing towards negligence, declared the car's thirst. An unsettling hush settled over the scene as Clara, with trepidation clawing at her composure, stepped out into the night. The only sounds were the rustling of unseen creatures in the underbrush and the soft whisper of the wind, carrying with it an intangible unease. With every passing minute, the encroaching darkness became a shroud, and Clara, a mere puppet in the theater of fear, sensed eyes upon her. She quickened her pace, her senses heightened, and yet she couldn't escape the relentless feeling that something lurked in the obsidian void surrounding her. The rhythmic thud of her footsteps mingled with the symphony of her racing heart, each beat a resounding reminder of vulnerability. A flickering light in the distance offered a glimmer of hope, a gas station, an oasis in this forgotten wasteland. Clara, driven by both fear and necessity, moved toward it with a hesitant determination. As she approached, the dim glow revealed a dilapidated structure that seemed to defy the laws of time. A sign swung ominously, creaking in the wind, bearing the faded words, "Last Stop." Clara hesitated, her gaze fixed on the desolation that seemed to seep from the very pores of the abandoned station. The door groaned as she pushed it open, revealing a realm frozen in time. Dust-covered shelves held relics of an era long past, snacks with expiration dates obscured by the decay of neglect. The air was thick with a suffocating stillness, and Clara's breath caught in her throat. The flickering fluorescent light above cast distorted shadows on the stained linoleum floor. The silence was broken only by the occasional drip of water, a morose symphony that seemed to resonate with the beating of her heart. With trepidation, Clara approached the counter where a solitary figure stood, obscured by the shadows. A feeble attempt at a greeting died on her lips as the figure turned, revealing empty sockets where eyes once resided. The ghastly apparition's voice, a hollow whisper, spoke words that echoed in Clara's mind like a macabre incantation. "Out of gas, are you? You're not the first, won't be the last." The air grew colder as Clara, paralyzed by terror, watched the phantom fade into the shadows. The station, once a beacon of false hope, became a chamber of horrors. The walls seemed to close in, and the darkness outside pressed against the windows like a malevolent force. With a trembling hand, Clara reached for the door, desperate to escape the confines of this nightmarish purgatory. As she stepped back into the abyss, the spectral gas station receded, swallowed once again by the inky void. The sound of her footsteps echoed through the emptiness, but this time there was an unsettling accompaniment, an otherworldly chorus that whispered of forsaken places and the souls condemned to wander them. Clara walked, haunted by the knowledge that in the realm of forgotten highways there are tales untold and horrors unimaginable, lurking in the shadows cast by the flickering light of abandoned gas stations. The second scary story. In the heart of a dense forest where the canopy above swallowed the moonlight, a winding road beckoned the intrepid. Amelia, a solitary traveler, found herself navigating its serpentine twists as darkness consumed the world around her. The gas gauge in her aging car flirted with the ominous E, and anxiety gnawed at the edges of her resolve. A flickering sign appeared through the misty gloom, bearing the promise of salvation: Crescent Grove Gas and Rest. Relief surged through Amelia as she pulled into the eerily quiet gas station, the trees looming like silent sentinels in the shadows. As she stepped out into the oppressive silence, a cold wind whispered through the branches, carrying with it an unsettling symphony of rustling leaves. The gas station, a relic from a forgotten era, stood frozen in time, the peeling paint on the pumps a testament to the years that had slipped away unnoticed. The unsettling stillness clung to the air, and the distant hooting of an owl intensified the feeling of isolation. Amelia, feeling like a trespasser in a forgotten sanctuary, hesitated before reaching for the pump. The only sound was the creaking of metal as she lifted the nozzle, a lonely echo in the abyss. The wind, now laden with an otherworldly chill, carried whispers that danced through the trees, as if the forest itself held secrets untold. Amelia's senses were heightened, and the rhythmic drip from a leaky faucet became a haunting percussion to her unease. As the fuel flowed, an inexplicable dread seeped into her bones. The flickering gas station lights cast ominous shadows, and a fleeting movement caught Amelia's eye, a silhouette among the trees. She dismissed it as a trick of the shadows, but the feeling of being watched lingered. The gas pump's mechanical clicks seemed to mock her vulnerability, and the forest's silence became oppressive. A sudden gust extinguished the feeble light, plunging the world into absolute darkness. Panic gripped Amelia as she fumbled for her phone, the screen casting an anemic glow that barely cut through the inkiness. In the pale light, she saw them, shadowy figures, indistinct yet unmistakably present, eyes like points of malevolent light fixated on her. The whispers in the wind grew into an otherworldly chant, and Amelia, paralyzed with fear, knew she had become entangled in something beyond comprehension. With a surge of adrenaline, she abandoned the fueling process, the gas nozzle clattering to the ground. As she sprinted to her car, the forest seemed to come alive with unseen entities. Branches clawed at her, and the shadows merged into a nightmarish tapestry that chased her through the labyrinthine darkness. Amelia's car roared to life, and she sped away from the accursed gas station, leaving the haunting whispers and shadowy figures behind. The forest, now a sinister backdrop, seemed to swallow the road in her wake. As she emerged from the tree-lined maze, Amelia stole a glance in the rearview mirror, half expecting the ghostly figures to pursue. The forest, however, receded into the distance, concealing its secrets within the depths of the night. The road ahead stretched into the unknown, and the echoes of that haunted gas station lingered in the recesses of her mind. In the realm of forgotten roads and ancient forests, where the gas tanks run dry and the shadows hold more than darkness, Amelia carried with her a tale of spectral watchers and the price one pays when the road leads not to salvation, but to an encounter with the unknown. The third scary story that happened on the road. In the heart of a desolate countryside, where the night sky hung heavy with stars, a narrow road wound its way through the silent landscape. Sarah, alone in her car, felt a jolt as her tire succumbed to the malicious embrace of a pothole. The hiss of escaping air whispered through the stillness, and dread crept into her veins as she found herself stranded on this isolated thoroughfare. The moon, veiled by fleeting clouds, cast an eerie glow on the seemingly endless road. Sarah, standing beside her car with the spare tire in hand, scanned the emptiness for any signs of help. The only companion in this desolation was the distant hum of cicadas, their symphony a haunting accompaniment to her predicament. Just as frustration tightened its grip on her, a distant set of headlights appeared on the horizon. Relief washed over Sarah as the patrol car pulled up, its blue and red lights casting an otherworldly dance on the deserted road. The officer, clad in a uniform that seemed to belong to a bygone era, stepped out with a stoic expression. "Evening, ma'am. Looks like you've got a flat tire," he said, his voice a spectral murmur that seemed to echo through the night. Sarah nodded nervously, grateful for the unexpected assistance. The officer, without uttering another word, began to assist with changing the tire. The atmosphere, however, thickened with an unspoken tension. The cicadas fell silent, and an unnatural stillness draped itself over the scene. As the officer tightened the last lug nut, he turned to Sarah with a gaze that seemed to pierce through the fabric of reality. "Be careful on these roads, ma'am. Strange things happen here at night," he warned, his words carrying a weight that transcended the mundane. Before Sarah could respond, the officer stepped back into his patrol car, the engine growling to life with a spectral vigor. The headlights illuminated his face, revealing eyes that held a distant sorrow. Without a farewell, he pulled away, leaving Sarah once more on the road. The moment the patrol car disappeared into the night, the atmosphere shifted. The air itself seemed to hum with an unsettling energy. Sarah, with trepidation, climbed back into her car, the flat tire now replaced. As she drove away, the road unfolded before her like an ancient manuscript, each mile pregnant with the echoes of an eerie encounter. Strange occurrences punctuated her journey, the flickering of streetlights, shadows that seemed to dance at the periphery of her vision, and a persistent feeling of being watched. The road, once a conduit to freedom, now felt like a passage through realms unseen. As Sarah reached the outskirts of a forgotten town, she glanced back in her rearview mirror, half expecting to see the ghostly patrol car. The night, however, held its secrets close, and the road behind her stretched into a silent abyss. In the rear-view reflection, Sarah saw only the void of the road she'd traveled and the haunting memory of a police ghost who patrolled a realm between the living and the unknown. The tire may have been replaced, but the specter of that lonely road lingered, a chilling reminder that in the dark corners of the night, the ordinary can give way to the extraordinary, and the road itself becomes a conduit to the mysteries that lurk beyond the veil.
When I was 12, we lived next to a really old man who was always grumpy. He'd yell at loud cars and tell people to stay off his lawn. After a few months, he started watching me a lot, especially when I was on the porch or in my room. One day, my family went out, but I stayed home. It was fine until I heard loud knocks on the front door. I knew not to open it when my parents weren't home, so I was confused. I peeked out and saw the old man and his friend talking loudly at my door. I got scared and called the emergency number in Australia, ready to dial if they broke in. I hid in my room, crying as the knocking continued. It was so loud that I tiptoed downstairs, fearing he'd hear me. I grabbed a big kitchen knife and went back upstairs, barricading the door. I messaged my boyfriend, freaking out and crying. The knocks continued for an hour until they left right before my parents came home. I told my mom everything, but she thought I was exaggerating. Still, I kept a knife under my pillow in case it happened again. This happened about 20 times when I was home alone. The old man would either see me come home from school or watch people leave without me. After a few months, I convinced my parents to move, complaining about fake issues. Even though the old man moved to the other end of town, it was one of the scariest experiences. Now, I keep pocket knives in my bedside drawer and don't trust any old men on my street.
In the 3rd grade, during my parents' divorce, we moved to my mom's home state. Living in a small countryside trailer with my mom, younger brother, and 3 younger sisters, the nights became eerie. Mom, dealing with emotional struggles, often left us alone on weekends, surrounded by scratching sounds and mysterious footsteps outside. One calm night, with Mom out drinking, I was tasked with looking after my siblings. We gathered in the living room, watching movies on tapes. Suddenly, the back door opened and slammed shut. We cautiously approached the back part of the trailer, my brother and I leading. Peeking into the dark hallway, too scared to turn on the light, we witnessed something move. Summoning courage, I took a few steps toward the light switch and saw an alien-like figure, big head, oversized eyes, small mouth, and small stature. Screams echoed as we raced into the living room, the door slamming shut behind us. Late into the night, we mustered the courage to check our bedroom and bathroom, finding nothing. Unable to lock the back door, we improvised with string to secure it. Mom returned in the middle of the night, discovering us asleep in the living room. My explanation fell on deaf ears. She didn't believe our encounter. Strangely, I'm the sole witness to the alien-like figure, while my siblings only recall the fear of an intruder. The exact nature of what entered our home remains a mystery. Late at night in my country home, I found myself washing dishes in the kitchen. A window above the sink offered a view of the wooden patio outside, just a short distance from the large sliding glass door leading to that patio. As I worked in the dimly lit kitchen, the window was open, revealing pure darkness beyond the screen. Despite the minimal lighting, my head and face were visible through the window from the outside. Lost in silent contemplation, a sudden sound shattered the quiet, an unmistakable cell phone ring, resonating about 10 feet in front of me. My body froze as I peered into the impenetrable blackness outdoors. The ringing persisted, a distant yet clear melody. 3 times it echoed before a slow creaking reached my ears, wooden patio boards groaning under the weight of footsteps. One after another, the steps moved away from the patio onto the grass of my backyard. Soft but ominous footfalls resonated on my lawn, accompanied by the fading ring of the cell phone growing fainter and more distant. At what felt like the edge of my property, the phone abruptly ceased its ring, plunging the surroundings into an eerie silence. In that quiet moment, I gazed into the void, realizing with a sudden horror that for an entire hour I might have been unknowingly observed. The chilling truth dawned on me. I had been teetering on the precipice of a potential robbery or something far worse. When I was 8, my mom gave me a German Shepherd named Kibbles for protection. She often went on call-outs, like a doctor on call back in the days of pagers and cordless house phones. These call-outs could last from a few hours to weeks, depending on the case's severity. As I grew older, I'd stay home alone during these call-outs, especially for one-night jobs. We were cautious, creating special knocks and code words that changed for each call-out. Even today, I use secret codes with my kids for added safety. One night, around midnight, with the lights off, I was with my 3-year-old, and my mom had a local call-out. We had special rituals for checking in and ensuring the house was secure. We watched horror movies, and despite hiding under my blanket, I couldn't shake the fear of Jason Voorhees coming out of the water. Around 3:30 a.m., I heard tapping on the side of the house, and Kibbles started growling. Terrified, I muted the TV, grabbed the phone, and called my neighbor. Kibbles remained by my side as the tapping moved around the house. Panic set in when the tapping reached the living room window. I called my neighbor, who instructed me to stay low, grab a knife, and lock myself in a safe place. Getting Kibbles away from the door was a challenge, but she was determined to protect. My neighbor checked the perimeter, but found nothing. We stayed locked in the back room until morning. The tapping never returned, and the mystery remains unsolved. I'm okay with not knowing, grateful for kibbles and our precautions that night.
2 years ago, I lived in a house in the south of France with a terrace and a small parking lot below. My room was upstairs, and there was a door to the stairs that could be locked. One day, while playing Minecraft, I noticed a man with a balaclava standing outside my window, holding an object. I got stressed, and my mother and stepfather panicked, locking all the doors. It took me a while to forget the situation. Weeks later, the same unsettling moment occurred while playing Among Us. I changed my habits, always checking the window and ensuring the door was closed. I saw the guy again, and though stressed, I became really scared since I was home alone. After leaving for a moment, I didn't see him anymore, but a loud noise at the front door made me realize it had been forced open. Panicking, I grabbed my phone, keys, laptop, and bag, opened the window, went down to the terrace, and then to the parking lot. As I sprinted to a friend's house, I heard more noises from my home. I explained the situation to my friend, called my mother and security, and noticed the same car passing by my friend's house multiple times. By the second pass, I realized it was the man who had broken into my house. Surprisingly, there were 4 people in the car, not just him. 2 years later, I've moved to a bigger city and a quieter district. My boyfriend often visits, making me feel safer, but the fear lingers. The thought of someone breaking in at any moment haunts me, but I try not to dwell on it. In 2013, my mom and I lived alone in my grandmother's old house. My mom often visited family, and on one particular night, I was home by myself, playing games on the PC. It was nearly 11 at night when I heard a knock on the door. Our 4 dogs, usually loud, went into a frenzy of barking. This wasn't unusual, but their behavior caught my attention. My bedroom faced the porch and the door, allowing me to peek and see a guy in his early 40s, wearing a brown work jacket and light blue jeans. I assumed he might be a coworker of my mom's, as she didn't have many visitors, especially not late at night. I opened the door, and he greeted me, asking about my mom and making small talk. He mentioned moving from Indiana, introducing himself to neighbors, which seemed odd for the time of night. He said goodbye, leaving in a car parked on the road. At the time, I didn't think much of it. I assumed he was just being friendly. But my mom's reaction when she got home made me reconsider. She pointed out that the dogs, known for their protectiveness, were right there with me during the encounter. My mom suggested I was lucky the guy didn't barge in. Although it might have been a harmless encounter, the memory lingers, leaving me wondering about his true intentions.
This eerie incident occurred when I was home alone during heavy rain.
As I sat on a chair gazing out the window, I suddenly heard footsteps on the floor above. Initially, I brushed it off, attributing it to my anxious mind. About 5 minutes later, a knock on the window startled me. I thought it might be a bird, but then a massive floor lamp toppled in front of me. Perplexed, I sat for 10 minutes, trying to comprehend how the seemingly stable lamp had fallen. It remains the creepiest moment I've experienced alone. At 17, my time was split between.
One night, when my dad was away, I found myself home alone at my parents' house. Eager to surprise him with a clean home, I was vacuuming around 9 p.m. To my surprise, someone knocked on the door. Perhaps foolishly, I opened it, and a man asked if he could use our phone. Despite my refusal, he persisted until I closed the door, thinking little of it. Shortly after, I heard a knocking on the back porch door, and there he was again, waving and insisting to be let in. Feeling uneasy, I called the police. They arrived, escorted me to my car, and I drove to my mom's house. The next day, with my dad back, we discovered items moved around in our backyard, and both garbage and recycling bins had been rummaged through. The same had happened to our neighbors. Reflecting on it, I felt naive for opening the door initially, and considered myself lucky that nothing worse had occurred, as it easily could have. While house and pet sitting for my parents, something incredibly strange occurred in their home that had always given me an eerie feeling. The house had a history of inducing sleep paralysis-like sensations, making me constantly feel watched. Though not outright terrifying, it was unsettling enough that I never felt entirely at ease. Around 1 a.m., I was in the computer room chatting with a friend on AIM. This was quite a while ago, when suddenly all the electronics went haywire. Both TVs turned on, the stereo system blasted at full volume, and the microwave and oven began beeping incessantly. The chaos frightened me to my core. My parents' dog went into a frenzy, barking and racing up and down the lower main hallway. Despite the stereo's volume dial being set to the lowest level, the music blared as if it were at the highest setting. I swiftly turned off everything, practically sprinted to my room with the dog, closed the door, and tried to ignore the unsettling incident. I chalked it up to a power surge, but the mystery of the stereo reaching full volume with the dial at 1 has never been explained. Throughout it all, I've maintained an uneasy relationship with the house. My cousin Cole and I, both 12 years old at the time, were close friends, often found together in and outside of school. One Friday evening in late May, I was at Cole's house when our moms called, saying our grandpa was in the hospital. Our parents were staying with him, and Hunter, Cole's 15-year-old brother, was left in charge. We ordered pizza, enjoyed our time goofing off, and around 9 p.m., there was a knock at the door. 2 guys claimed to be from the city, investigating water pressure issues. Cole, being cautious, told his parents weren't home. The guys persisted with questions, but left after Hunter intervened. Later, when we decided to sleep, Cole and Hunter shared a bedroom. Since I hadn't planned to stay, I had no overnight clothes, but opted to sleep in my briefs. In the early morning, I heard something in the family room, but dismissed it. However, when I returned to the bedroom, I found Cole and Hunter asleep, making it clear the noises weren't from them. Alarmed, we investigated and discovered the two guys from earlier were robbing the house. They noticed us, one brandishing a knife, and we fled, managing to alert passing cops. Backup arrived, the house was searched, and the burglars were caught. It turned out they entered through a broken latch in the laundry room window, targeting our seemingly unattended house. While waiting outside, embarrassed in just our briefs, neighbors and schoolmates witnessed the commotion. The incident led to teasing at school, making us endure weeks of sniggering before summer break. My dad, who had been a stay-at-home dad, finally got the job he had longed for. This meant he wasn't around when I finished school, marking the beginning of my newfound freedom. Armed with a single key to our house, I embraced the independence, walking to school alone for the first time. On the first day of my dad's new job, I made my way home through the familiar route, passing a park, a playground, and arriving at my house. Everything seemed normal until I noticed a stranger in the park. Unfazed, I continued home, but felt an uneasy chill when the man started following me. Racing home, I managed to shake off the feeling of being pursued. However, the unsettling events escalated as I heard strange noises outside my house. Worried, I tried calling my dad, but he didn't answer. With a sinking feeling, I realized my parents were still absent and I had no one else to turn to. As the evening wore on, I heard scuffles and disturbances around the house. Attempting to investigate, I cautiously checked various rooms, fearing an unwelcome presence. To my relief, the perimeter seemed clear, and I resumed my activities, hoping my parents would return soon. Hours passed, and as darkness enveloped the surroundings, I turned on the study light, unknowingly revealing the man peering through the window. Panic set in as he froze upon being caught. I quickly retreated, dialing the police while hiding behind the sofa. The intruder, having entered through the unlocked back door, ransacked the kitchen and demanded something I couldn't comprehend. Terrified and alone, I sobbed and screamed, desperately trying to protect myself. The police arrived just in time, apprehending the man and restoring a semblance of safety. My parents, informed of the ordeal, decided to postpone their plans of granting me independence. The man's motives remained unknown, and my sense of peace at home was shattered. While the details of his fate remained undisclosed, the encounter left an indelible mark on my perception of safety and solitude.